Good day, my name is Al.
And I'm Mike, and I'm with Ian and Gemma on the BiG Scuba Podcast, and we're going to chat to them about the Royal Naval Clearance Divers and Southern Diving Unit 2.
Ready?
Yep.
Hear that?
What's that?
Welcome back, everybody. It's the BiG Scuba Podcast. It's the Christmas edition. Oh, no, it's not. It's our 50th edition. It's the 50th episode to the BiG Scuba Podcast. Let's get rid of the Christmas. Let's get rid of Christmas.
Yes.
It's not. We're a little bit early. Right. Welcome, everybody, to the BiG Scuba Podcast. My name is Ian, and also with me is
Gemma in Pakefield.
Absolutely, and I'm in the wilds of Bungay, the centre of the universe, as somebody once told me.
Hello, welcome to the BiG Scuba YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Please do consider subscribing to keep up to date with our adventures on the water, under the water, and maybe by the water on the beach. There will also be features from our podcast, so there'll be audio books when we chat with guests, and there'll also be some video footage of our interviews with those guests as well. If you have any comments, leave them in the section below. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, share with your friends, and hit that notification bell, and then you'll receive a notification when we release YouTube videos. So thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the show.
This is our 50th episode, Gemma. How did we get to 50?
We've made it to 50.
I know, that's unbelievable, isn't it? And what a cracking lineup of guests not only have we had, but to mark our 50th, we've got the boys from the Royal Navy and services. They are with us, and they and that's an absolute privilege to speak to them. So I've been really excited about talking to these guys, and they've been fun.
We knew that they're fun.
Yeah, and it's been fun getting them lined up, and they are based down on the south coast, so near their training place. So that's all good. I do want to say just one little thing.
What's that?
There is a little bit of interference on this. We have obviously this is an interview that we carried out by Zoom. And there is some feedback, and we have just a little note for our listeners. We have tried to clear that. We've toned it down and played with it. We believe, we're not sure, but we think there was something on the bass which was interfering with the Zoom, but we don't know. So,
so if you
it's in this period. Right, that's enough. Let's crack on. Let's get the boys on from the Royal Navy and hear what they got to say.
So it's episode 50.
Woo-hoo.
He's just making sure he's all right before he gets himself into trouble. He's all right.
I thought you were fiddling with the heating controls.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Is it?
Yep.
We won't ask. So, well, thank you very much for joining us. That's really kind of you. And have you seen the questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Briefly.
And you are sorry?
Said briefly.
That's all right. Okay, that's cool. And have you listened to any of our podcasts? Have you heard anything about what we're about?
I see you briefly on YouTube.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of bits on there, and that was just out of my own curiosity.
Okay.
When I heard about we were going to do this, so I just had a quick look, and I take it's about your story from starting diving up to where you are now.
Yeah, for me, yes. Yeah, I'm quite a new diver. I've only been diving, qualified in July.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously it's been a bit disjointed.
Yeah. Although I guess you can do it by yourself. So.
Haven't tried that one yet.
Yes. Well.
Can I just ask what your names are?
Yeah. So I'm Mike Jacobs.
Right. Okay.
And I'm Alistair. So. My full name's Alistair, but I prefer Al. Yeah.
Okay, yep, that's cool. Right.
That's brilliant. All right, excellent. Okay, well, what we'll do, we'll just sort of crack on, if that's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll just sort of kind of get stuck in. Would you mind just explaining who you are and, you know, kind of what you do?
Yeah, so I'm the chief diver, so I'm second in charge of the Southern Diving Unit 2. My main role is looking after the manpower, the equipment, and the day-to-day life of the actual unit, and to make sure that we can go out and provide those diving tasks, the EOD tasks that are called upon, and that we're providing that service on behalf of the Navy.
Okay.
And I am the commanding officer for Southern Diving Group. So there are 2 units, one based in Plymouth and one based in Portsmouth. Mike is the chief for the second in command for the Portsmouth-based unit. And I oversee all of that activity to ensure that my group can provide diving and EOD for the Navy, but obviously to defence as a whole.
And you're called the Southern Diving Group, is that right?
That's correct, yes. We're part of the Fleet Diving Squadron. So there is a group based in Scotland called the Northern Diving Group, and they provide a similar capability to our own, and they do everything, if you think, north of the Humber Line, whereas we conduct all that activity south of the Humber Line.
Okay.
Then we have some expeditionary diving groups as well that they conduct that sort of activity all over the world on behalf of the Royal Navy.
Yeah. And then there's from my understanding, there's like a land-based, army-based of team that do what you do on land.
So there is, the bomb disposal side of our job is indeed mirrored in the Army. That's done by members of the Royal Engineers and the Royal Logistics Corps, and they provide EOD in the UK mainland for everything above the high water mark. We also conduct that activity, and Mike is a #1 operator out in the streets of the UK on a weekly basis. But where we vary and differ from them is that anything below the high water mark is our responsibility, and that obviously includes then everything out into deeper water, which that requires diving.
Right. Okay. And do you cover like inland rivers?
If called upon, it's rare that we get called out to jobs that involve rivers. Generally, it's been fished out and then dumped on the side, and then they realise that it's something that we need to go out to, and then that's how we find it. But I mean, tasks could come in. It has been done in the past.
Yeah.
With rivers, especially like the Thames, where things are needed to be dived on. But smaller rivers inland, it's very rare. Like I say, most of the time it's all been brought up already by our favourite people in society.
Okay.
Keep us busy.
Yeah, I bet. So we'll go through some of the questions more. Some of these be applicable for you both individually, about you like the diving history, and then some of it will be maybe as a team. So we'll take it as it goes. Are you okay? You still hearing us? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
how long have you both been in the Royal Navy?
Yeah. So you're still counting. I've done 22 years so far. I started life as a general sailor in the RN, and then after sort of 18 months, I transferred across to the diving branch.
Right.
So diving community, I'd probably say just over 20 years.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, were you a diver before you joined the Navy?
No, I've never been diving before in my life.
Wow.
It's something I took on when I joined the Navy.
Yeah. And how about you,
So I've been in the Navy 17 and a half years. I joined in effect straight from school. There was a small gap. Joined Dartmouth in 2003 as a general service warfare officer, and deep specialised as a mine warfare and clearance diver throughout the course of my career. And I've been a diver since 2008.
Yeah, yeah. So before you obviously joined the Navy, had you ever considered diving as something you'd like to give it a go?
I guess it was a hobby try-dive type situation when I was on holiday in Australia. It was a very good place to start. I've certainly not replicated that in my military career, but it was a very nice introduction.
This is the Fourth Element long-sleeved exotherm undergarment. So you'd wear this under your dry suit. So it's lovely and close-fitting, but loads of movement, so you can get in and out of your dry suit and move. It has thumb clips, so that when you get in dry suit, your sleeves will stay nice and secure. So it's got the Fourth Element logo, and on the back. Hello, these are the exotherm leggings. So they're lovely and smooth. There's very flat seams, nice bit of detailing on the bottom. They've got a nice high waist with a drawstring, so you can tuck yourself in. And they have foot clips, so that when you're putting your foot into your dry suit, you're going to keep your leggings nice and secure. These are the exotherm socks. So again, they've got detailing, and they're lovely and thin but very warm feeling, so you could probably put another pair of socks over them. And on this one, I've obviously got them tucked in my leggings using the heel clip. So this is the exotherm vest, which I'm wearing over my long sleeve top. So it is, again, very flat seams. It just adds more warmth to your core, so just ups that thermal protection if you're in the colder waters. So it's got kind of cut sleeves, so you can still move freely in your dry suit and under the water. So, and it fits over quite snugly. So that is the exotherm range. So for more details, look in the show notes, and there'll be a link that will take you to the Fourth Element shop featuring the exotherm products.
What made you get into bomb disposal?
So it was while I was in the Navy, I then transferred across to the diving branch.
Yeah.
It was while I was in that I met divers and explained about what they actually do and the role that they do. And then that was it, I was hooked. I've become a divers groupie, as they're called, and then I went to selection and aptitude, and then I went straight on to course.
All right.
It rolled on from there.
Yeah, I think it's very similar for myself. I met, I had a good privilege of having a very good mentor. It was an existing clearance diving officer during my young officer years, and they read me into what the career was about, and it's challenging and exciting and interesting, and all of those things definitely appealed to a very much younger me, and I was sold. So and then, 17 years later, here I am.
I was looking on the web page, and the recruitment process looks really good and quite thorough. And it reminded me of the process you have to go through as a dive master and instructor, like with the swim test and fitness test, all those things.
Yeah, I would definitely say the training pipeline to get someone from not knowing any diving or having any diving experience through to being a proficient mine clearance diver is long. It is certainly arduous and testing to ensure that the result actually is that I think our people are the envy of the Royal Navy and the sort of their competence and capability. What they can do is just brilliant, but there is obviously a physical test entry requirement for that, because we need to be able to ensure that people can cope with the pressures, and the only way to simulate the pressure of a live situation is, when people are colder and tired, and they, you've got to really put them under pressure, and it's the only way you can safely do that and ensure a result at the end.
Yeah. So that fitness, that's basically like the core test to get into the Royal Navy, and then you specialise.
Yes, to become a clearance diver requires a higher baseline of fitness than the general service. So There are additional minimal standards that you'd be required to fulfill before getting onto course. And those are mostly centered around you being able to, one, safely lift and carry your equipment various distances, being able to then pull yourself out of the water whilst wearing that equipment, albeit you get assisted in real life, but you know, if push comes to shove, you've got to be able to do it yourself in the event of an incident, or indeed in more testing environmental conditions on open water.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you've got your in water like PT and fitness, which really stems from when you then are on course. So you have that baseline of physical fitness when you join and your aptitude, and then when you're actually on course, a lot of the time is spent in the water to get your water fitness up. And there's a lot of physical activity with that involves mud runs, and like I say, a lot of time in the water, finning up and down Horsey Lake.
In terms of the training, I guess some of it's quite secret, but how did you find the whole process? Do you get a lot of people that kind of don't make it, or is it quite a sort of high percentage of sort of qualifications? So
it's you like now it's you do get a high percentage, and the people that don't make the cut are those that take themselves off or sustain an injury through the process, which is generally no fault of their own. A lot of them get fit again, come through, and then they're successful. The physical side of it is achievable. I've done it, so anyone else could do it. You know, I'm not making out that I'm anything different to anyone else. You just got to want it, and you've got to work hard, and you can achieve it. It's like any arduous course in the RN or the military. It's all achievable. You just got to want it. Yeah, it's.
And sorry, I would say I would absolutely mirror that. And the you know, it is all achievable. It is difficult at times, and there's quite a lot to learn. The learning curve is certainly quite steep for some of, especially the bomb disposal type activities. But it's all achievable. It just requires a fair amount of hard work.
You need mental agility as well, I imagine.
Yeah.
So I mean, you go through a lot of the PT, so they tire you out, and then you're doing a lot of lesson-based activities to obviously learn about the kit, physical diving, to be able to look after yourself as a diver, work as a team, and that's the main ethos. Is it's not individual diving; it's all about being part of that team and how you work together. So yeah, they've got to take you out of that comfort zone, and that's why we're military divers.
Yeah,
and you know you're training to be that element in time of war. So whether it is war and peace, you've got to be prepared for the long hours, the cold, working at night, in areas that you don't really want, that you wouldn't go to, you wouldn't pay to go to. So it's always, yeah, we're at the rough end of the diving community. If you want to look, whereas you're all doing nice stuff globally and looking at coral reefs, we're looking at the belly of a ship in a nice dirty dockyard somewhere. So reality.
Do you get many women coming through?
We have, the branch has been open to both male and female applicants for I'd say maybe in excess of 5 years now. So we have a small but growing number of female clearance divers and clearance diving officers. And you know, there is no difference in capability in the end result. And certainly I'll be very happy to receive any of the female able seamen that are new into the branch, and they'll come to our unit from sea, and they'll be an excellent addition to our diving group when they arrive.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah. So do you think that if we've got someone who's to us from, I don't know, who may be a tech diver, or they've been diving years, but maybe they're still in their early 20s, does the diving help, or do you like train them right from scratch?
What we tend to do, or what the Navy looks at, is I mean, yeah, we'll always take people that have got diving experience. Of course we will, because you're already shown an aptitude to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
The problem that we've got to then iron out is all the bad drills.
I was wondering.
And obviously we've got to teach you to a set way. So you know, we've got to iron out those little bits, polish it, and then we move you forward. So everyone, whether you've dived before or not, is beat down to one level, and then you're just moulded together as a group as you go through the dive course itself.
I was wondering, and I don't mean to ask you, put you on the spot, 'cause I know, you know, obviously there's the things that you can tell us and what you can't, but I was wondering whether in training, because yes, the fundamentals of diving will be the same whether you're in the service or recreational, but wondering if there's anything particular that's different that you can tell us, which, like, you know, maybe there's different hand signal or just more different things you've got to be aware of.
Yeah, so signals are, and this is like a bit of a running joke between us and like obviously the civilian diving community, as we'd call it. Obviously, you've got all your so is it that means go up?
Yeah.
So that to us is like, yeah, you're all right. We give it a thumbs up. So
Okay for us.
Yeah, there's none of that.
No. No, so yeah, so hand like signals and things are completely different. We have a lot of lifelines, so generally the work that we do, because we're in tidal conditions, we're in dangerous areas, we don't always have the divers free swimming, so we are on light lines, whether that's attached to a float or in hand, and we use working signals.
Okay.
The guys in the boat, if they need to pass things down or the diver wants equipment, we can do pulls and signals on a line that's attached to us, and that's how we communicate. And like the civilian world as well, we have diver through water comms, especially on our Sabre, our air sets. So, you know, we can talk just like you guys can.
You have the full face masks.
We have got full face mask variants as well. Yeah.
So we have thankfully a suite of options in terms of a full face mask or a half mask variant, and that all kind of depends on what the task is you're doing. You know, the full face mask is wonderful, but your field of view is slightly impaired by it. Whereas with sort of a simple Pinocchio mask, actually, you've got you can move your head more freely, and you can get a better all-round look, which is clearly, if you're searching for a piece of ordnance, may be preferable depending on what the task is.
Right, because like you know, the only closest thing I suppose I can align it to is when we've done training for a missing diver on a rescue course. So I presume when you're looking for something, that can be in a similar search pattern. We learn, you know, whether you're going around in circles or grid references.
Yeah, we use all of that, or you can get what we call conned onto an item. If it's been found by a ship with sonar, then you can get your you can actually drive the diving rib onto it, and then your divers will conduct a search for that, and then we can the capability is improving to include things like handheld sonars for divers to assist in our search capability moving towards the future, as well as incorporating autonomous vehicles or remotely operated vehicles to sort of increase the skill set and our ability to search. So
Yeah,
string.
do you use scooters?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Do you use like scooters to get you to places faster? And
I think things like that have been trialled, but a lot of the work that we do don't require that. We generally will go to somewhere that's generally marked, or we have a GPS position.
Yeah.
We generally do it the older way. We'll get onto the area and just dive. We tend not to use equipment like that to move around to different dive sites. We generally do a dive, finish that dive, and then move on, and we'll move around like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
As well. So you got to be careful what you wish for.
Because you all train at this place in the Midlands, don't you? Is it Demas?
No, all of our training is conducted, so our training is conducted at various sites, but the Defence Diving School is based in Horsey Island in Portsmouth.
Oh, right, okay.
a lake here which has got it was originally a World War II torpedo test lake. So it's very nicely 9 meters deep at its deepest and about 1 kilometer long. So it's ideal for that kind of new entry initial diver training, where basically we learn to operate our equipment and learn in-water skills about swimming and spinning along. And we can introduce more complex, so mixed gas rebreathing diving equipment in a very benign environment that we can control. And once we've reached a certain level of competence, we'll then move to open water areas like Portland or up in Scotland for deeper water, and that will sort of test the extremes of depth which you can't replicate within the lake.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough. And I see that you use a rebreather. There's stealth.
Yeah.
So
again.
Yes, I was looking at, when I was doing some research, and I was looking on your website, and they were showing that you use the stealth rebreather, and I was wondering if you are using that, and how did you find the transition getting into, because rebreathers are still sort of a new science, and some people like them, some people don't.
Well, we specifically use them for deeper diving and for on ordnance that would be influenced by magnetics or sound or things like that, because they are quieter and a more technical piece of equipment. So for the ordnance of that size, it's actually a simpler task than, you say, an improvised device on the hull of a ship, which you'd want as much dexterity as possible. So what you gain in capability from the mixed gas set, it's obviously much larger and heavier and a bit more cumbersome. So you lose a little bit of dexterity in that. Whereas, if you need more dexterity at shallower depth, you would probably choose an air set, so a simple.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that. Sorry, Gemma, go on.
No, go on.
I noticed there's on something I was reading, they were limiting the depth to 60 meters, or is it your training is limited to 60 meters?
Yeah. So the set itself is capable down to 120 meters. As with everything, our capability is threat based. So in effect, we dive to 60 meters because that is where our most likely, or where our threat algorithms tell us that we need to dive to. And if that changes, then our capability would change to match that. And that's, I guess, the difference between the set's capability and what defence needs as a capability from us.
Yeah, makes sense. That's a lot. End of the day, it's a lot. You can get past 60 meters. It's a blooming long way down, isn't it?
I think depending on where you're diving, normally after about 20, it's cold and dark, and then it just.
Yeah, it is.
About your kit, so obviously you're in dry suits. Do you sort of have Royal Navy issued specific dry suits, or have you got flexibility about choice of what you use depending on what job you're doing?
No, there is a company that's contracted in to look after us, and they will provide us with all the kit, so we're all the same. We have a plethora of kit. We have obviously dry bags for the deeper and colder water diving, and then we've got good old wetsuits that we'll generally use, which are a lot more comfortable, different layered systems. Yes, it's like I say, basic when you compare it to a lot of the Gucci kit that you can buy. If you look at it, do we need that? That's a debate we could have between ourselves. But for a majority of the diving that we do, the kit that we get is perfectly fine for what we need.
Do you have things like heated vests and heated gloves then?
If only. There are sound. If you're diving in the north of Scotland in the winter, you would wish you had some, but we don't have any heated systems yet. They are in development, but clearly, again, those are linked to certain capabilities, and it all depends on exposure time. And all the equipment that we currently have is sufficient to allow us to safely conduct our activity that we are planned to conduct at this time. But obviously there is the odd unique task where perhaps you might need a different piece of equipment, and there are ways and means for us to get that if we needed it.
How do you get on then? So say you're down somewhere and visibility is bad, you can't see, and everything's by touch, as we know, that's how a lot of it's done, and you've got gloves on. For all the best will in the world, it's a hell of a job to try and feel stuff and do stuff when you've got gloves on, especially dry gloves, when you've got an inner glove and an outer glove. Do you ever go down and think, right, gloves off, and just bear the cold and do what you've got to do with bare hands?
Yeah, sometimes. It all depends. So as clearance divers, generally you're rummaging around in the mud. Then when you hit a mine, you generally know whether you got gloves on or not, that you found it.
Yeah.
There's obviously the difference between metallic object and the soft mud. The main reason we really wear gloves is because we're all a bunch of sissies and we don't like to see between the fingers. And it's just to protect our hands. We do get given different thickness gloves for different tasks. There are young lads out there that have got hands like leather boots, and they will go down, they never wear gloves. Whereas I've got nice soft hands and I've got to look after them. So yeah, I wear thick gloves. But it's all down to the diver's preference, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, if we have limitations, if it's a certain temperature, we'd recommend the use of a certain type of glove to obviously ensure that individuals are protected. But if you need to go away from that to complete the job, then you would do so. If you need to take your gloves off to get the job done, you're down there to do a job, so you will do that, and then get your gloves back on when you're finished if the water's particularly cold, for example. We've got that flexibility.
So when you go down, again, hopefully this is not an operational problem to answer, but is there 3 or 4 of you in a team go down together? No. Or does that just depend?
It all depends on the tasking. So most of our mine clearance jobs will be single diver ops. So it'll be one guy on his own will go down to look for it, identify it, and conduct a search. Now, if you're searching a larger area, then yeah, we could put more divers down and spread that search out, depending on the tasks, really.
Yeah.
Most of the diving that we do is single man ops.
So where do you call the line between if you're in a piece of water where visibility is really bad and it's deep, where do you draw the line between thinking, right, this is something that's actually doable, or actually it's not, and we just got to do something else? Well,
there's a lot of factors that can obviously affect that decision. I guess the sort of overarching one is what is the imperative of that task? Is there a risk to the safety of navigation or an individual's life, for example, that would give that task a higher precedence for us to do it? But we have a very robust risk assessment strategy, be it a dynamic one on site as things evolve, or if it's something that's planned, then obviously we do that work far in advance to try and foresee any problems that there may be and come to the safest and best solution for that given task, whatever it happens to be. So, but then as things change, and they often do in open water, we have the ability to stop a task and recover back to the platform or the shore and plan again if required, provided of course it's not one of these risk to someone else's life type tasks, where obviously that's where we will conduct the task as safely and as efficiently as possible to complete it, to mitigate that risk and remove it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Because have you seen that? There's a clip I've referred to on a few other conversations with other guests. There's a clip on YouTube. This guy in 1948, and he's defusing a 500-pound bomb in one of the docks in London. Have you seen that clip? Brilliant clip. It's only about a couple of minutes long, and there's a mine clearer, and he's being interviewed by the BBC. And I think it's 1950, 1948. It's in black and white, and his conditions that he's got, you know, really primitive dive gear as it was back then. Have you, you know, have you seen that clip? It's a really good clip to see. But also, have you seen, I suppose you've seen much how technology has enhanced and made your job easier to do?
Yeah, personally, I don't recall seeing that clip.
No.
And we're generally quite privy to a lot of the clips and old, you know, snippets that are out there. But technology-wise, we've kind of gone away from that diffusing bombs underwater, and you know, we've got equipment now where we can lift and shift. We can move it to a safer area for us then to dispose of later. Do what we need to do to.
That's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, technology is definitely, you know, it is continuing to improve. Certainly, the advent of handheld sonar systems and remote vehicles is definitely the direction of travel within the military as a whole, and that clearly applies to the diving specialisation as well. And there will always be an addition of technology to assist our roles, but I don't think that the technology will ever replace the requirement for a clearance diver, because, you know, technology just can't do all the things that a human being can do, and it's not as versatile. You know, certain technology is very, very good at one job, but it can't do 4 or 5 different jobs. So, you know, whereas a diver will always be able to do that. So benefits, yes, but will never replace us, I don't think.
That's good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So do you have to log your, like, as recreational divers, we log our dives? So is that something that you do?
Yep. So all our dives, every time we're exposed to the water, it gets logged, and then it goes into our own diving log.
Yeah.
And to be recorded. And like your logs, it'll have just like simple things like depth of water, temperature, visibility, what the actual task was, who was there, made up part of the dive team. It's a little history, you know, that represents what you've done. So we can always glean information and an experience from that. So if there's a unique job that we've been out and done before, if it's like, well, it comes, you know, someone else comes across a job similar, you know, we can always just go back through our logs and just think, well, yeah, this is how I dealt with this, and you can pass that information on. And that's what a lot of our job is about, is learning, moving on. You know, we've got set procedures and rules and guidance. That's all it is guidance. It's a very dynamic world, and we have to adjust with that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So how many log dives do you have between you?
I've
You'll
got
have many more than me.
Yeah, so I've got 3. I've probably got 3 logs. So there's probably, I don't know, 1,500 dives.
Yeah.
20. I don't know. In all honesty, I'd have to get all my logs out, have a proper count up.
That's a lot, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as a career diving officer, wouldn't have been exposed to half the number of dives as Mike, but I will have done several hundred, if not more than 1,000 individual dives, but yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the dives that you do are when you're a younger, an AB, a junior rank. You are the guys that genuinely at the coalface.
Yeah.
As you go up through the ranks as officers and seniors, we are supervising. So we're sat in the boat barking orders at the guys to go in and do the dirty.
Even more.
Yeah, so yeah, our diving minutes and the number of dives that we do drop off, but we do a lot more in the way of supervision.
Yeah.
The actual dive themselves.
That's good though, because then you're passing your experiences down to the people who are now, as you say, at the coalface.
Yeah.
But you know, and you guys have already done all that as well. So, you know, so it's good.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I think that is unique in the diving branch in a certain way is that you know, our junior sailors can start to supervise a dive from the rank of leading seaman, so like a corporal in the army as an equivalent. And the great thing is that, you know, as a senior or an officer, we will go diving, and it's the leading seaman on the surface that's in charge of that evolution, and you know, it gives us a really good team bonding experience, and it's, you know, we're all very close because the person in charge of that dive is in charge of that dive. It doesn't matter what epaulet they happen to be wearing, they're the supervisor.
Yeah.
they benefit greatly from the experience of their seniors, but at the same time will also supervise while they're in the water, and it gives us a really good team ethos, I think.
That's fair enough. So what do you like to do when you're on holiday then? When you're away, do you dive when you're on holiday? You know,
No.
or do you
No. Do it for a day job. I don't want to do it when I go on holiday. And I think the wife would have something to say about that as well. So no, I think I've done a couple of dives when I've been on a nice holiday, but no, it's not something I do as
diving?
Yeah, I think I have been diving on holiday once, and that was because my wife wanted to try it. So we went. Again, I was in Australia at the time, so it was a very nice, pleasant dive. But there was nothing going to go bang, so it was frustrating.
Do you not get tempted to go see some sharks or go swim with the seals and be switched off from all that? And we're just like, no, I had enough.
I've done a cage dive to see a great white. That was a lot of fun, but it's one of those odd ones where you're only just beneath the surface. It's not wasn't the full brave dive. I was definitely in a cage. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just take my little one to the Sea Life Centre if I want to go and see a shark. You get that opportunity in Skegness.
Yeah.
So you're not wowed by the visibility, because you do with no visibility.
Yeah, I want to be able to see what I'm looking at.
But then again, sometimes it's better not to be able to see what's around you. You can concentrate on the job at hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people that are quite surprised by that reaction, and you just don't want to see all this big blue clear sea.
I mean, there are guys within the branch that are into it, but there's not many at all. It's a day job for a lot of the guys, and it's not something they really take up at weekends, or if it's seasonal when it's warm.
I kind of understand that because it's a bit like, to a degree, me. If I cut grass, the last thing I want to do when I get home and my time off is cut more grass. So it kind of is, even if you're doing.
Sorry, I thought he was going to smoke. Right, where are we going with this?
If you're doing it all day, last thing you ought to do is more of it, I suppose. But yeah, I do understand. So, but what's the weirdest thing you've found? Is there anything you when you've been called to a job and it's like, what is this?
Yeah. So, hold on. Lorry wheels or car wheels, hubs. Is
really?
it? Yeah, they're frequently called in as landmines. I think the weirdest one that I've been to is probably a brolly handle.
No way.
Called it in as a flare. It's how people perceive things. And think something is, if they find it on the beach, then they just automatically think it's some sort of ordnance.
Yeah.
About bits of pipe work, sewer pipes that have been there for years, but we can see that, but other people can't. And it's years gone by. There used to be educational things on telly, or there used to be posters, and that sort of thing's not out there anymore. With all the digital age, that's all moved. It's all gone. So, people just see anything on the beach and think it's unexploded ordnance.
Yeah,
we're very happy with as a go-to. If people do see things that are suspicious, it's much better to phone and ask us, and for us to then be tasked to go and have a look at it. But we get the odd thing that's nothing, but actually that's a good job for us because people are calling us, and it's much better that than the alternative of something that is a danger that goes unnoticed until it's too late.
Yeah, I've seen you guys on the road actually. Must have been onto a job with the blue flashing lights. On I don't know where I was, on the A140 somewhere, and you were going past. You must have been. This is last year, heading somewhere north. And so you must, yes, you do cover quite a big area, as you said.
Yeah, so Southern Diving Route covers everything from sort of the Humber Line, Manchester across to Liverpool, south, the coastline, and then we sort of split it down the middle between Plymouth and the Portsmouth-based unit, and anything maritime or land, if we're the closest responder in that area, would get responded to by one of our units.
Yeah.
Can be a lot of time on the road, and but it's hugely rewarding.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So in terms of the tasks you get, you know, somebody phones up and saying, I've seen this. How long a time scale are you kind of from getting that call to actually getting out onto location?
So we constantly have people at between 15 and 30 minutes readiness, depending on what they're being called for. So if we receive a task via the Joint Service EOD Centre, which normally comes from the police or the Coast Guard, who would be the first point of contact for the public, our people can be on the road within 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what that task is. The classifications depend on how quickly response and what the risk associated with that item is. We must respond, but obviously we can immediately respond should it be required.
Yeah.
Okay. So when did you last dive?
Just over a week ago.
All right. Oh, okay. Recently.
Yeah.
You've got me. I last dived, I think it was last month. Although,
Yeah.
as it's almost, is it the 1st of December yet? That's not too bad.
It's getting cold now as well.
So is that kind of a normal, do you go kind of a few weeks without getting wet?
We certainly try not to. I mean, the idea of the fact that because we are not just diving, our diving gets us to the job. So you've got to be current and competent in your diving equipment so that you can just go and do that job and you can concentrate on that job rather than the diving element. So we do spend a lot of time in the water to ensure that we've got that currency and competency, so that then you're not thinking about breathing in and breathing out at depth whenever you've got something to deal with that poses a risk to you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. So
at the moment, so generally we would try and get in weekly, so the team will rotate and get through. But obviously this year has been a little bit of a write-off for reasons that we all know. So again, that's kind of restricted us a little bit on, you know, numbers we can get together to go dive in, and so it's smaller groups, so you're not getting in as frequently. So it can be frustrating.
yeah, yeah. No, it's all interesting stuff. And obviously for our listeners, because obviously you're working in zero visibility, so you have to work out the measurements of the things you're finding using fingers and elbows and things. Is that's like another kind of sense, isn't it?
Yeah, so everything is 6 to 8 inches. We normally go off.
Well, you're going to use body parts to measure your.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you do. When you go through your underwater EOD training, there is a part of that course where you spend an inordinate amount of time measuring, you know, the length of your hand, and then your hand to your elbow and your foot to your knee, so that when you have no visibility, you can get a good gauge on the size of a piece of ordnance, which it's an odd skill to have.
I'm sure it comes in handy at times.
Not as often as you'd think.
No, I was amazed. I was watching a video and the guy was standing there and he knew like the width from one hand to the end of his other hand. I thought he was going to go and cuddle a mine or something. It's just, I guess.
yeah, that's generally what we'll do. Yeah, because we're idiots, so we like hugging mines. It's just a thing we do. It's so that the lads, that when they go down, they can get a rough idea of the dimensions, the length, the width, etc. Certain markings, features of that ordnance that we're looking for, and they can give us sizes and measurements, etc., etc. So then when they come to me, and then the best bit is when I get them to do a drawing, and then it looks nothing like what was down there.
Really?
You get like spaceships and all sorts of weird, wonderful drawings that we have a laugh about. But generally, we can then tell that what it is and where that can lead us, and then what we need to do to render that safe.
Yeah.
But I suppose around our coastline, most of what you find must be Second World War stuff, isn't it? Around
Yeah,
our
there's
coast?
phenomenal amounts of Second World War ordnance. More airdropped weapons than you would perhaps think, because the procedure was from both sides that if you were flew over a target and for whatever reason you were unable to jettison all of your ordnance, you would drop it in the sea on the way home to so you'd have enough fuel to actually make it back. So
Yeah.
you know, you often therefore get old airdropped weapons that will wash up. Last week, Southern Downton Unit 2 were in Guernsey for a US Mark 52 airdropped depth charge that was found in St. Peter's Port, for example. So they are still out there, still very prevalent, because there were hundreds of thousands of them jettisoned over the war period.
Yeah. And are you finding that, I suppose most of them now, you must now know, but I take it you're not finding new design, or not, it's not the right phrase, a different designed system which was dropped years ago. I suppose most of it's all fairly, you must now know how most of it all works of the Second World War era stuff.
Yeah, so we'll generally, and there's certain areas as well that we go to, like certain coastlines and areas of the UK that you'll generally then find the same items reappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sometimes get different variants where we've come across. So to identify a German weapon is by one of the main features is a lifting lug, which would suspend it underneath the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You had a video of one for some divers, and we all sat there going, well, that can't be German because the lifting lug's different. Then when we did some research, and we've got some boffins on the end of a phone, that there were certain periods during the war where, you know, our friends the Germans were getting what they can and in a way bastardizing everything and doing what they could to put lifting lugs or different types of aircraft that they were bringing in because they were running short.
Mm-hmm.
But slight different variants that were then appearing. So educational piece for some of us. And I think it was only like a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah.
Months
Because
ago.
it's one of the things I was looking at, where they're saying that early on in the war, they had a lot more brass to use on different shell casings and things like that. And then towards the end, when things were getting tight for them, they started using iron and anything they could basically use as a casing.
Yeah, there was, you know, they were made from all sorts of things, but they were made to a sort of, I guess, a standard design. So rather than, you know, be perhaps now what would be classed as improvised almost, now it is, you know, or then it was still all to a design. You would recognize it even if it was made from a slightly different material. Interestingly, you know, if a British boy in mind washes up now, you'd mostly just get the main charge and perhaps some of the connectors or whatever, but German ordnance, certainly the stuff early from the war, was actually made to incredibly high engineering standards and actually has weathered the test of time much better. Probably where the stereotype about how good German cars are comes from. It's they're, you know, they still look fairly pristine if you take all the barnacles off, but they're piece certainly.
Yeah. So is there anything that obviously you've heard about but that you'd love to find?
No, I think I've come across most
Yeah.
pieces really. I'll tell you what I would like is if, I don't know, like a V2 or a V1 rocket. That would be like the gold standard. That'd be me getting my MBE.
There was loads, wasn't there?
I mean,
Even right towards the end.
but yeah, chances of us finding something like that now very, very slim to none. But yeah, that would be the icing on the cake, I think, for my career.
I don't think I can top that.
Over to you.
No, but it's surprising actually how many of them were sent over. Right towards the end, they're still sending them over, weren't they?
Mm.
Yeah.
So there's always a chance, I suppose, that some of them be in the sea, I guess.
How about you, Al?
I don't think I can get something as high class as a V2. He's clearly thought of it. No, I mean, whilst being at the commanding officer, I was the officer in charge of one of the expeditionary units, which did mostly kind of Op-Kipian, so into the Middle East facing. So actually, I would very much like the opportunity to dive on live World War II ordnance and do that in the UK. I haven't yet had that experience. So just one of those before I leave command would be fantastic.
Have you got anything you can tell us, like of a past job or an example of something maybe we might have heard of where you guys got involved and, you know, diffused it and disposed of or blew it up?
Yeah, so I think I mean, there's a couple of high-profile taskings of recent. I'm not staking claim for that. I wasn't involved, but for the unit, we had the large dredging project for the dockyard for the next years. There was a lot of Second World War ordnance found then, and the team were recognised for removing and disposing and rendering safe of a lot of ordnance that was found then. And then there was the London City job for the London City Airport, where there was a airdrop weapon found, and then they had to
I remember that
way up through the Thames, and that was a very, very large profile scenario, because they had to literally take it all the way across the Thames. They had to make sure all the tube trains had stopped, and it was basically a rolling cordon. When they got to the QE bridge and the tunnel, that had to be stopped at a certain point, and it went up to Parliament. It was a huge process.
Yeah, we had to train one of our engineers in how to operate the bridge so that it was a service person operating the bridge, because it was going to be inside of the cordon as we towed the ordnance out past it. So it was a hugely complex operation that our predecessors had the privilege of conducting, but that's probably the highest profile job in recent times that Southern Diving Group have conducted.
It's amazing, really, when you know, as a diver, you not only you trained how to dive, you trained how to use the CCRs, then you're getting your head around how to approach a project like that, and then you get your team are doing, you know, operating a bridge, and you're so multi-skilled. You know, it's quite an amazing achievement, really, to do all that.
It keeps it interesting.
Yes.
But doesn't it show you where the field of diving, you know, is one of the reasons why we wanted to speak to you. You know, for anyone who is listening to this, who are thinking, right, you know, I've just done my open water and they're 17, 18, that if you are interested in diving and being underwater and putting that to a good skill and a good job, you know, what way this can give them, and, you know, what from diving, you never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the diving is a means to an end. It's his enabler to our capability. So, you know, if someone is interested in diving, that's a good place to start. And then, yeah, they'll get taught a whole load of different skills.
Yeah.
And just broader Navy business as well is you know, very globally facing right now, with the political aspirations for the country. So, you know, now's a good time to get involved, especially in the clearance diving branch.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think it's really good. So for anyone who is listening to this and thinking about joining up, what's the best thing for them to do, and where they're best to go to if they're interested in joining the service?
So the best thing is, obviously, the first thing is do a little bit of research. There's plenty of stuff online now, with the technological world that we live in. You can find so much on there, and go to your careers office and speak to the Navy guys in there. They'll point you in the right direction. How that process is now, I couldn't give you the truth, and, you know, by all means, your listeners should go out and ask, basically, the guys that will know. We need divers, so there is recruitment, there are places out there, so by all means just come along and give it a go.
Yeah.
So the Royal Navy website will be a good place to start. That has all the links on how to access your local careers advice. Clearly they will have COVID restrictions in force at the moment, like everyone else. I suspect it'll be much more remote based just now, but eventually, you know, that you'll get the opportunity to come down and see us, and we'll get to see you. And if the two fit, then welcome in.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So once somebody signs up and joins, do they have to go through quite a lengthy induction before they then can decide what branch or area they're going to go into?
So I think now they can come in direct entry, so you can
Right.
join as a diver. Back in the golden oldie days of sail, when I come through, I had to join up as a sailor,
Yeah.
a branch, and then transfer across. But I think now that it's open door policy, you know, males, females, you know, we're open arms. So you come in, you'll do your basic training, HMS Rally,
Yeah.
6-8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, yeah.
6 to 8 weeks. Seamanship phase, which is an extra couple of weeks, and then you'll come down to us. Let's say you'll do a week's, is it a pedicurse they call it now?
Yeah.
Where you get an introduction into the diving world. They get to see how you are in the water, and then you come through for a proper aptitude, and then on successful completion of that, you'll start course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't even have to be a diver. Non-divers can, and you train them right up from the start.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would consider myself a complete non-diver before I attended the defence diving school, and you know, you'll take you from zero to hero, as we may call it.
They're probably the easiest divers to mould and put forward. Haven't got to get rid of the bad habits.
Yeah.
Bad habits, what are they?
There you go, Gemma.
I'm a good diver. Well, I'll try to be.
Right. Well, I think that kind of sort of finishes everything with the questions about the tasks. So we like to ask all our guests of some set questions. We'll try and tailor them a little bit more towards yourselves, but generally they are the set questions, and it's good to, as a comparison, see how people answer. So for yourselves, it would be what dive location is on your wish list or bucket list, and why, if you wanted to go diving somewhere.
So, and this is probably a very naval one, but I have not been able to dive yet on the HMS Royal Oak in Orkney, which is only dived on by Royal Naval clearance divers from Northern Diving Group to change the ensign once a year. And the why, I think, is just because it represents such a phenomenal piece of naval history from the Second World War, and it's just one of those iconic dives within our specialisation that only a few get to do. So yeah, if I could have any, I would take that one.
That's a good one, and it shows that they're not forgotten as well, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's a huge brotherhood within the military, and I mean, you know, it's a genderless brotherhood, but it is a huge brotherhood within the Navy and between all military services. And you know, we all need to remember those that have gone before us and what that means to us.
There's about 1,100 people went down on that, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah, there was. Yeah, it was a phenomenal life. Yeah.
Yeah, good answer.
I think for me, I'm just going to go on a happier note here. I know you've been lucky enough to do it, but I think one for my bucket list is to go maybe like South Africa and do the cage diving with great whites. That's something that I would like to do before I kick the bucket, definitely.
Brilliant.
If I'm a shark or from a heart attack, I don't mind.
Awesome.
When you're doing your tasks, do you see any marine life? Or
It depends. If you're diving on a closed circuit, you will see a lot more, because obviously you make any noise, you are much more likely to sort of see, or less likely, sorry, to scare things off. But you see a fair amount when you're diving. I guess it depends where you're diving.
yeah.
When you're in the dockyard, you don't see anything. There's things you wish you hadn't seen floating. But it depends where you are. Generally, if you go out open water and the visibility opens up, then yeah, of course you do get that glimpse of something, some fish. And again, it depends where we are, and a lot of our work takes us underneath the ships and not very nice places. So it's, and I think that is one of the main reasons people get deterred when they walk through the door and become divers. They're like, didn't get to see any fish. Actually, the diving's rubbish. And it's like, well, the clearance diver, it's working in the dark in really shit places. Excuse my French.
Yeah, because it's one of our questions. We always ask our guests what's their favourite marine animal, but I guess you don't really.
We can still have a favourite.
Yeah, we can still have a favourite. I mean, mermaids. I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah, mermaids. Yeah.
An octopus, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd go with an octopus. It lives underwater. It's highly intelligent. It's very adaptable. It's the clearance diver, but like an animal.
Well, yeah, there is that. I think something like a blue whale. I mean, what an amazing creature that is. I've not seen one. I'd love to. They're just gentle giants, and I just think that is something that I think divers need to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's awe-inspiring, really. But,
that's good.
lines.
I like that.
I wouldn't miss it either.
No, they're big enough to see, definitely.
Yeah.
So if you could take 3 people into the water with you, either on a recreational or at work, but if you could take 3 people with you, and this is to you, Mike, if you could take them with you, and that could be anyone from history, anyone you like, or present.
How are we tackling this question? Is it like we want to get rid of them? Because obviously my ex-wife's going to be in there.
No, we're keeping it positive, so to inspire them,
obviously someone
maybe show them what you do.
Yeah, so I mean, it's got to be someone like David Attenborough has got to go, and just to glean his information and knowledge on certain things.
Yeah.
Oh, who else will I have? Probably met, I don't know, my granddad, a guy that pushed me this way to show him what I've achieved and what
In the forces.
He was, yeah. Unfortunately, he was RAF, but the enemy. But
no one's perfect.
No, exactly. So, but he guided me this way and pushed me down this route. So yeah, I think to have that discussion and take him down with me as well would be nice.
Why didn't he put you towards the RAF?
Good God, I've got standards, man. You don't go in half cocked, do you? You want to go for the best. And I don't like flying anyway, so.
Fair enough.
And I think number 1 would have to be my daughter.
Oh, nice one.
Definitely.
You've gone
That's cool.
approach here.
Of course I have, yeah.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thanks.
In there early.
I'm gonna change tact. So I think I'd take the first mine clearance diving officer, who's known as Buster Crabbe, of Silent Enemy fame, the World War II film. He was an actual individual and probably the father of the modern clearance diving branch. So it would be amazing to get obviously his view on what we can do and continue to do now.
Yeah.
I think for a little bit of light relief in the dive boat on the way there and back, maybe Stephen Fry. I think he would be quite
Good choice.
and he's a big guy. Yeah. He'll be all right. And lastly, I liked the Richard Attenborough, so maybe I could bring Steve Irwin. Although I don't know how keen he would be on diving if I brought him back, but I might bring him too.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, it would be an entertaining time, I'm sure.
My book's more lighthearted.
Sentimental.
So do you each have a favourite bit of equipment, dive equipment, that you can't do without, or you wish you had?
In actual fact, yeah, I have.
Oh, Mickey.
Really?
My lucky Speedos.
No.
No badge on.
You don't have, surely. What does that say?
Bomb disposal on the back. And then the branch badge there.
He doesn't wear them really, does he?
Every time I go diving.
Thankfully, he's usually wearing a dry suit, so I don't know. Some things that I don't need to know.
Yeah. We can't unsee them now, can we?
No, sadly, no. I've got to work with him tomorrow.
Good luck.
Yeah, I think my favourite bit of dive kit is the one that I go down with and I can come back up with, and it keeps me going. I'm a fairly simple beast. I don't know.
No, I haven't really got a favourite.
A bit I could do without. Couldn't go without my knife.
Fins. You look silly, wouldn't you?
Look silly without your fins, definitely.
Yeah.
We spoke to Andy Torbett a while back because his ex bombed the clearance as well, isn't he? But I think land-based. And he was saying his favourite piece was a hood. He misses his hood.
Yeah, that's a strong call.
Doesn't like a cold head.
No.
I don't like a hood. I can't clear my ears properly if I wear a hood, so I end up having to cut holes in the side to let enough water in to enable me to clear my ears.
Then his ears.
Even in the cold, you don't wear a hood?
No, I'll wear a hood, but if it's cold, but I'll cut a hole to let a little bit of water into my ear, because otherwise I can't equalise.
I've done
Holes
that.
in yours, haven't you? Yeah.
I have, yeah. Much easier. Little rub. Yeah. Cool.
They don't let me in when it's cold anyway, so I don't have to worry about it too much.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So after you've had a dive and you come out, have you got a favourite meal or a drink that you like to have?
I do like a cup of tea.
Go
I mean, because this is a family show, I'm going to keep it clean and sensible. But yeah, you know, from time to time in the branch, we might have a little alcoholic beverage to celebrate. But yeah, generally a nice cup of tea.
Your Navy is rum, isn't it?
Not while you're working, maybe later.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's food, lasagna. I don't think there's any situation where lasagna doesn't make you feel better. I think.
What about curry?
Yeah.
Bit heavy.
Certainly, I wouldn't have a curry before diving.
No.
That would not be a good recipe for success.
We normally ask where your chili level is. You know, are we talking Madras, Korma?
Well,
No, I'm not. I don't do spicy.
no, you're a korma, are you?
Yeah, it causes me havoc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sweat over a tikka. Index. Not for me.
Okay.
I've been partial to a Naga chicken chili before. That's about as much as I could manage, but
Is that a thing?
it is a thing, and it's a really good thing. If you get a good one, it's really good, but
Yeah.
have you in tears.
Fair one.
If we're teaching, we often have a curry afterwards in the evening. Yeah. It's always quite a nice thing to do, beer and a curry to talk about your dive after.
Pizzas are normally a favourite amongst the lads.
Yeah.
If we're still together at that point.
When you're on a task, what's kind of the longest time that you're underwater?
But again, it kind of depends on the task. I mean, you know, we try and we would use, depending on the task and its severity, we would probably rotate divers without causing decompression requirement, because clearly if someone's in the water column for a longer period of time and there's a risk, then we would want to minimize that and therefore not do decompression. So that would mean we'd use more divers. So depending on the depth, it could be, you know, if it's a very shallow dive, like 9 meters, you could be in there for as long as the duration of your set, which for a mixed gas set's around about 180 minutes. So, but then of course you could always just bring them up for enough time to change it over and put them back down again. That's been known to happen depending on the job. So they can range. So
Yeah, plenty of time to get hungry then. It's just
Yeah.
driving makes you hungry.
yeah, you can most certainly work up an appetite.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay.
Jem, do you want to do the last one?
Yeah. So we ask all our guests if they had a billboard and they could put it out to the world out there, what message would you put on it? And it can be a written message, it could be a video, an image, but what would you want to say to the millions of people in our world?
This is a family show, yeah. So I've got to be.
You can have two versions.
So, yeah, millions. I don't know.
Your world-changing statement.
Stop being idiots. I don't know. I've got quite a thing about like sea pollution and plastics. I kind of jumped on that front. Just stop ditching it. I don't know how I'd word that, but yeah, I think there's a way that we could definitely do more.
I think
to clean our seas.
As professional mariners, and you know, our work is in the ocean environment. It would have to be, you know, we've only got one. Don't waste it.
Yeah.
People should go diving, and people should enjoy it, and that would they'd maybe understand more the ramifications of our current action or inaction, as the case may be.
Yeah. Have you seen a difference in the state of the ocean seas around here over your career?
I think it has improved, if anything. I mean,
Yeah.
genuinely, I mean, the old days of, and I'm talking very old days of, you know, if something wasn't right on the ship, it was over the side, no matter where you were in the world, is long gone. You know, as professional mariners, certainly the Royal Navy and the UK dockyards are all incredibly conscious about how we look after the marine environment, and that goes for every aspect of our profession. And it's heartening to see how firmly the defence has grasped the requirement for that.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, really good. Okay. Well, do you have any questions for us?
No, I'm just really, if like a recruitment piece, really, if you've got listeners out there that want to join, then by all means, just put your toe in the water and give it a go.
Is there kind of a life? Is there a lifespan for a diver in your field?
No, I would say no, because your job changes as you progress in seniority. So young, able seamen and leading seamen divers are hands-on in the water, on the diving equipment, and you know, as you increase in seniority, as Mike alluded to earlier, you become a supervisor, which is less physically arduous but more mentally taxing, and you also get the senior rate responsibilities of looking after your juniors in terms of their training and their mentoring, and then officers again sit above that and deal with more kind of the written bit, if you like, the strategy, the policy, the how we meet our defence capability and that side of life. So, you know, you can start as an able seaman and progress all the way up to being the first Sea Lord within the Navy. There is no bar in rank or on talent, and that is really, really true.
Yeah,
Good.
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you got plans of where you're going to continue on in your career?
Yeah, so I've still got time left. You know, I hope that the Navy reward me and extend me a little bit longer. You know, warrant officer, you know, getting up there as a branch champion. Yeah, I'd like to see my time through and get to the top, and I've seen it in all ranks.
Yeah.
Again, like assist in moving the branch on for the future as well.
Yeah.
It's, you know, embracing technology, the way we do things, recruitment, especially opening up and getting more females in. You know, it's there for the taking. And like I said earlier, it's, if you've got listeners out there that want to come in and join the diving branch, you know, and a member of the Royal Navy, then go for it. I've done it. It's achievable. You've just got to want it.
Yeah.
Achievable.
Yeah.
Similarly, I have definitely, I can see a a much longer career in the Royal Navy for myself. There are things that I'd like to go and do, and hopefully one day come back and be the commanding officer of the entire diving squadron. Has to be my head mark. I couldn't think of a better job.
Yeah, and I think, for our audience, it just shows that diving is not just diving in a clear sea, seeing fish. There's so many more avenues that you can go down and make it a career as well, which is really important. And obviously for youngsters, girls as well, that it is just such an open field.
Yeah.
So you've really shown that. Great.
That's brilliant.
Well,
Thanks very much for your...
Well, I was just going to say, we've even spoken to a NASA astronaut. So, you're in the realms of, all sorts. So,
Same thing as an astronaut.
Yeah.
but thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Cheers, guys.
That's been really good. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant. Thank you very much. We are back. I really enjoyed that, Gem, didn't you?
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Yes.
Well, a lot of fun. And so that was really good. So thank you very much to Mike and Al and Stephen for the commander and officer for letting us do this. I think if I remember right, they haven't done anything like this before.
No.
So I don't think it was all natural to them. So it was really great for them, to give us some of their time. So thank you very much. Totally enjoyed that, and can't wait to go down there as well.
No, we've got our invitation, and for anybody interested in a career.
So what a great career in the Royal Navy. So if you are a school leaver or you're about to leave, it's a great way to see the world, as they say. So do that, and and it just shows you where diving, what it can lead to as well. Like some of our other guests who've got into diving, you never know where it leads.
Right.
So it's been brilliant. So thank you very much. Totally enjoyed that.
Each have a favourite bit of equipment, dive equipment, that you can't do without, or you wish you had.
In actual fact, I have.
Oh, Mickey.
Really?
My lucky Speedos.
No.
No badge on.
You don't have, surely. What does that say?
Bomb disposal on the back. And then the branch badge there.
He doesn't wear them, really, does he?
Every time I go diving.
Thankfully,